Welcome back to the middle of the game between Herzi and Karnatheon. So Herzi is on Tropic Thunder, as always, and Karnatheon is on 5-color Fear Dreamsight. So Herzi leads off with Renewal Grove, and Karnatheon has actually a pretty good hand. They have 2 Prying Inquiries, which will be pretty fun, because they get to tear apart Herzi's hand. Meanwhile, Herzi has a hand with 2 counter spells and an Unceasing Flames and Spirit Script, so I guess they're probably just going to turn to pass, holding up a counter, and then Spirit Script end of turn. And Cane Dancer, yeah, that's really good. So Herzi has a pretty counter-heavy hand, so they can probably stop Karnatheon for a while. And for now, I think Karnatheon just goes for Prying Inquiry. Maybe they hold up Negate instead, but I'd rather go for a proactive play and see what Herzi has in hand. If Herzi counters Prying Inquiry, then I think you're probably pretty happy, because you basically 1-for-1 them with your discard spell. Although I guess Prying Inquiry does investigate, so it's not exactly what you want. But yeah, does Herzi counter this? It does use their mana more effectively, and also it protects Cane Dancer, because Karnatheon's probably going to take Cane Dancer if Prying Inquiry goes through, since Cane Dancer will be able to flashback whatever Herzi discards off the Prying Inquiry. So yeah, Karnatheon's probably picking Cane Dancer here. Maybe Unceasing Flames, but Karnatheon takes Spirit Script. That's sort of a strange choice, but I guess that makes sense, because Herzi was probably just holding up Spirit Script end of turn. So now if Herzi wants a Spirit Script, they have to Cane Dancer and exile it. Basically makes Herzi pass their turn without spending their mana. But it's sort of also weird in a way, because Spirit Script kind of wants to be in the graveyard anyways. So is Herzi just going to pass the turn without doing anything? Yeah, so I guess Karnatheon Prying Inquiry on Spirit Script basically makes Herzi waste 2 mana. Which I guess does work, but feels a bit iffy. I'd much rather have taken Cane Dancer just to reduce the number of counters that Herzi has access to. So Unceasing Flames comes out, and with Spirit Script in the graveyard, it's going to see it as an extra copy and deal 3 damage. Karnatheon untaps and draws Exunt. Yeah, not a good card against Herzi, who doesn't have any creatures right now. I think Karnatheon probably just plays another Prying Inquiry here, and then passes the turn with Exunt up. Or I guess they can also play Flood Depth tapped, pass the turn with Negate up, and if nothing happens, they crack the clue. I think that's probably better, because Herzi might draw into something good with Negate. Oh no, they're going to Prying Inquiry now. And now Herzi gets to choose whether to counter it or not. Oh no, they are going to counter it now. Are they going to Cane Dancer here? Well, they're going to Curse Glance it. I guess it prevents Karnatheon from investigating, and prevents Cane Dancer from being discarded. Herzi cracks their shifting land for more colors. They draw Sea Cash, which is really good here, because that thing draws them 2 cards due to Spirit Script acting as a second copy in the graveyard. It seems like Herzi leads off on Sea Cash, hoping to draw into another land. And they do draw into a land, and a Cane Dancer too, so yeah, that's really good for them. And they pass the turn holding up Diffuse. So Diffuse will tax for 4 because of Spirit Script acting as a second copy. The Karnatheon plays their 4th land and passes, probably holding up Negate plus Crack the Clue. They also want to sack Flood Depth for a basic so that they stop taking damage from their lands. Herzi is just going to draw and pass. Herzi is playing draw go with all of their instant speed reactive spells in hand. Karnatheon is going to end up turning Crack the Clue, I think. Strange that they're not cracking Flooded Depths just yet. I guess they want New Divide. I feel like life does sort of matter in this matchup because of Thunder Roads, so you want to stay above 9, plus whatever Unceasing Flames is doing. Okay, now Karnatheon has an interesting decision. They can play El Humble Apprentice with Negate backup. I think here Karnatheon just, well, no, they have to fetch this turn with New Divide because, yeah, they want a basic and they want a green source. There's Forest, and Flood Depth is probably fetching Island. Or no, they already have their second basic. So yeah, Karnatheon running out the Elf first. Does it get countered? Herzi currently doesn't have anything in hand that can kill it, so they have to counter it now if they want it to flip. Seems like they will counter it. Is Karnatheon going to fight over that? Seems like they will. Yeah, they're going to negate the Diffuse. And I guess Herzi can play another Diffuse now. I guess if Herzi decides to Cane Dancer instead of playing the Diffuse, then... Okay, so they're going to Cane Dancer to Diffuse to get a creature into play. And that works out pretty well for Karnatheon because now they have an Exunt target. Okay, so Cane Dancer on Cursory Glance to counter the L. Is Karnatheon going to Exunt now? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Edicts don't get any better if you wait because your opponent's going to sack their weakest creature anyways. So you might as well Edict them while they're tapped out. So yeah, Exunt. That kills the Cane Dancer. Unfortunately, Herzi still has basically 2 counter spells in hand for Karnatheon's Fear next turn, which I think Karnatheon's probably going to do. And Renewal Grove. Herzi has Cane Dancer on C Cash to refill their hand if they want to. They only draw 2 cards, but 2 cards is pretty good. But what's better than 2 cards is 5 cards, so Dreamsight well has been drawn. Problem here is that it's going to get countered by Diffuse, and Karnatheon has no follow-up. So honestly, Karnatheon should probably just try to slam on the big things this turn, because at least it spends their mana better if they get something countered. Nope, they're just going to Dreamsight well, which I guess makes sense because they want to see the 5 cards, but it's going to get countered. Yeah, definitely would have let off with Fear. Is Karnatheon just going to cycle Needless Atrocities? That feels kind of bad. Yeah, and now, like, you draw your island here, and then Early Cracks Renew Grove for their 5th land. You're getting pretty close to Thunder Road's mana. Another Sanctuary. Okay, so Herzi's kind of out of cards right now, so they're gonna have to Cane Dancer on C Cash, which means Karnatheon finally gets a turn to try to sneak through a spell. Renew Grove. Okay, so it seems like they can Veer plus Dreamsight this turn if they really want to, force Herzi to have their last counter. Or they can lead off with Tally's Council instead. Yep, they're leading off with Tally's Council. Now Herzi has to choose between countering it or drawing 2 cards. I think right now Herzi's is going to Cane Dancer, draw 2 cards, and then try to find a counter spell that way. Yeah, so Cane Dancer coming out. Okay, lets it resolve, and then... No, Herzi's going to Cane Dancer counter spell, so they're now top decking. I guess Herzi just doesn't want to risk having to see cash and draw into a counterspell. They'd rather just have to guaranteed counterspell even if it means they don't have any cards now. And yeah, Tally's Council gets countered, and Karnatheon passes since they have nothing else to do. But next turn, if Herzi doesn't top back anything good, then Karnatheon can just slam Veer and play Dreamsight from the graveyard. And Unceasing Flames is not a counterspell, so that does get Karnatheon closer to playing Veer. Herzi's probably just going to Unceasing Flames face now and get Karnatheon down to 6, which is actually quite dangerous because Herzi has a decent number of burn spells in their deck, like Thunder Roads, and well, they're just going to hold on to Unceasing Flames. Oh yeah, script. So Unceasing Flames does 5 damage, which means it kills Veer. So I guess Herzi is holding it for the Veer. End of all things. Well, that card doesn't really do anything right now. So anyways, yeah, Karnatheon drops down the Veer. Now they finally get to recast something from the graveyard, which is probably going to be the Dreamsight well. I guess if they want to be really spicy, they can instead try Inquiry right now to make sure Herzi doesn't have anything in hand. No, they're just going to Dreamsight well. They want the cards now. They'd rather get it before Veer dies. The thing is, if Herzi top deck and then they're Unceasing Flames, they just win. Because they'll do 6 plus 7 damage, right? Or 5 plus 6 damage. No, it's doing 4 damage. Okay, never mind then. So this Unceasing Flames doesn't actually kill Veer right now. Karnatheon probably playing their Chamber Range tapped here. Actually, Veer does die to Cane Dancer plus Unceasing Flames. So if Herzi swings in with Cane Dancer and Karnatheon blocks the Cane Dancer, then it's going to die. So let's see if Karnatheon falls for that. Herzi drawing a land here, which is not what they need. Yeah, Herzi swings in with the Cane Dancer, and Karnatheon wisely refuses to block Veer so it doesn't die to Unceasing Flames. I think Herzi is just going to point Unceasing Flames at face at this point. I guess they can probably hold on to the card for a bit longer. I mean, it's only 1 mana, they have plenty of mana. They can just Unceasing Flames opponent when they want to, instead of right now. Although doing it now will shuffle some more copies into the deck, so that increases the chances of drawing one. Herzi's going to Unceasing Flames now. I guess they're just hoping to top deck Unceasing Flames here. And Karnatheon draws Wayfarer's Shrine, and so they have Reweave Reality up, which is a counter spell, and they probably want to keep it up in order to prevent themselves from dying to stuff like top deck Unceasing Flames. But looking to Veer, they also... Oh, Veer's only active on your turn, so Karnatheon can do something like Prying Inquiry to make sure Herzi doesn't have anything good in hand, and then hold up Reweave Reality, and then still have 4 mana left over to do stuff with. So like they can also play an L or something. Yeah, they're going to cast L from the graveyard off Veer, which allows them to fetch another land. This time they're fetching Island. So Herzi hoping to top deck something, and it's a land. So I think the game's pretty much in Karnatheon's court now. So maybe Herzi could have used Cane Dancer to flashback C Cash that turn, and that might have changed the game. Herzi tried to go for the safe play of using Cane Dancer to flashback the counter spell instead of using Cane Dancer to flashback C Cash and hoping to draw into a counter spell. But maybe they were playing it too safe. Anyways, now Karnatheon just gets to do whatever. They're going to end of all things to Cane Dancer, I guess. Just make sure Herzi has absolutely no outs here. They probably shouldn't tap out of Reweave Reality because Herzi might have Thunder Roads. Or wait, no, Thunder Roads. Right, a single counter spell won't stop Thunder Roads, so Karnatheon still has to play around that, kind of. I think that right now Karnatheon just wants to Tally's Council for life gain, because that allows them to turn off Thunder Roads allows them to turn off Augmented Thunder Roads as a win condition from Herzi, because Karnatheon doesn't know that Herzi's holding 2 lands in hand right now. No, it seems like Karnatheon's going to flip the L right now, but what does Valir really do? I guess they can -2 Valir to find something that gains them life, and then play another land, and then that allows them to keep her Reweave Reality. So they're going to +1 to Veer to draw a card, and they somehow manage to draw into their stand only sale off that. So, and Solar Flare. So yeah, they're really happy with this draw because now they get to gain life and get out of Augmented Thunder Roads range. And that's it, I'm playing the island out. I'm going to play it stand unassailable. And they're going to end the turn. Telling Reweave Reality. I don't think Herzi has an out at this point. If they actually top deck Thunder Roads here, was there anything they could have used to augment Thunder Roads? Not really. I mean, this wouldn't have been a win anyways, but if Herzi drew Thunder Roads a turn earlier and also had a reprise card in their graveyard, they could have won by just augmenting Thunder Roads, and that goes through 1 counter spell. Karnatheon can -2 Valir and find a burn spell and end the game right now. Actually, never mind. They don't even have to -2 Valir. They just Solar Flare and then recast Solar Flare off the Veer, and that wins them the game too. I guess Karnatheon kind of just forgot that Veer existed because they're winning so much anyways already. Oh no, they're going to play Glitch Galactic Muse and I guess -3 to kill Herzi instead. I mean, that's a way to flex, I guess. It's a lot more impressive than Solar Flaring twice. We're looking at sideboards. Karnatheon's sideboard doesn't matter as much because they have so many cards, but they definitely want to bring in all of the non-creature hate. So, Negate, Anti-Magic, Thought Blossom, and Forbidden Treasure. Forbidden Treasure especially, because that thing, if you hit any of the cards that care about having copies of itself in the graveyard, then yeah, you can also exile Thunder Roads. That kind of does turn us off one of Herzi's main win cons. Herzi has a lot of spells that want to be in the graveyard, so yeah. And on Herzi's side, they probably want to bring in Secrets of Corelight Court so that they can make their stuff uncounterable. And then Redo to counter more stuff, and then maybe Cosmic Cinco too, just increase the number of counter spells, because this is a pretty counter heavy matchup. For game 2, both players have drawn their opening hands. Seems like Herzi is going to mulligan, and they've kept 6. And they're a pretty good starting hand, I guess. They have Spirit Script and then Cane Dancer. They're probably just going to Spirit Script a bit and dig for stuff. Meanwhile, Karnatheon has turn 1 Valdez, and then Needless Atrocities try to hit something with it. They might just cycle Needless Atrocities again this game. Well, either way, Herzi leads off with land on turn 1. And Reweave Reality. Guess that thing's just going to be a cancel. So yeah, Karnatheon's going for turn 1 Valdez off the Wayfarer's Shrine for a swamp. And they have 2 basics already, so they can turn off all of their pain lands. Valdez, aiming low, but doesn't matter because all of Herzi's cards are the same cost. Herzi gets to choose what to discard, and they discard an extra copy of Spirit Script. Karnatheon draws their 3rd copy of Spirit Script. I guess once they finally draw one of their practice spells, or spells that care about extra copies in the graveyard, they're going to be pretty happy. Karnatheon also draws their own Cane Dancer, and now they have Cane Dancer plus Needless Atrocities, so they might just want to cycle Needless Atrocities now. By using Grim Bastion to fetch green-blue land. I mean, that's probably what they're fetching anyways, off the Grim Bastion, because right now there's no way they can cast Tally's Council even if they wanted to. They're just going to play Grim Bastion tapped. I guess that makes sense. They don't just want to cycle Needless Atrocities. And Herzi's going to Spirit Script end of turn, dig a bit. Ooh, they find Sea Cash. So they discard its 2nd or 3rd copy of Spirit Script. And now they're going to place Sea Cash, drawing 4 cards, which is really good. Hopefully find them a land. I mean, almost definitely find them a land from that. But that means they can't hold up Courtesy Lands for next turn. So Karnatheon gets to slam with their 3 drops, which they don't have. I guess they can keep up Reweave. No, they don't have the right mana for that either. Move Cosmic Cinco. So I guess they can fetch blue-green off Grim Bastion and hold up Cosmic Cinco. And Cosmic Cinco for 3 will stop what Herzi's doing next turn. Although Courtesy Glance will counter that, but if Herzi wants to fight over, I guess, probably Cane Dancer on, or no, Breach Lilies on Sea Cash, then they can do that. Actually, yeah, Herzi's just going to Breach Lilies on Sea Cash, I think. But during Karnatheon's next turn, I guess. And yeah, Karnatheon has nothing to do, so they're kind of just wasting time. And that's also not a land. So I think Karnatheon is in a pretty bad position right now. Honestly, it might have been correct to just cycle Tally's Council, or not even cycle, just discard it, use it to mana fix and scry 1 and hope to hit a land. Well, I mean, next turn they can use Tally's Council to get double blue for reweave. Or, I guess, if they draw another land and they don't have the right colors, they can discard Tallies and use it to pay for Conjure. For now, I think Karnatheon just passes. Holding up Cosmic and reweave. No, they're going to cycle Needless Atrocities. I feel like going shields down right now is a bit iffy. I guess they just assume that Herzi has enough counter spells that holding up counters won't be helpful for them anyways. Yeah, especially since Herzi's going to end of turn Breach the Lilies with counterspell backup. If Karnatheon just held up a counterspell this turn, then they basically accomplished nothing. Oh no, Herzi's going to Bounty instead and go on the offensive. Yeah, I guess they don't really want to discard too many cards to hand size, so they'll save the Bounty for later. Or they'll save the Sea Cash for later. So now Herzi gets to choose whether they want to breach the Sea Cash or Cane Dancer the Bounty or breach the Bounty. Or I guess they can... No, they can't recast. They can't cast the second Bounties because they don't have the right colors of mana. So they're going to Cane Dancer and Flashback Bounty. They're going on the offensive now, which makes sense. Karnatheon isn't really doing much. Probably not a very good time to cycle your Needless Atrocities, honestly. Probably should have just kept it up. Although I guess Karnatheon wanted a Cane Dancer target in the yard, so that's why they cycled it. But now you're taking 9 to the face. And they don't draw land still. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But they have Mupuno, which deals with the Bounty of the Garden's tokens pretty well, but it's going to run to Counterspell. And I think that probably just closes up the game for Karnatheon. I guess since Herzi used Cane Dancer on the Bounty instead of Breach Lilies, they can't Breach Lilies the Bounty anymore. But they have a second copy Bounty, and they can just play it now and win the game from that. Yeah, Herzi fetching, and then plays Bounty, makes a 5-5, and I think the game's over. Karnatheon saying GG's. It's unfortunate for Karnatheon because they never drew their 4th land. Going into game 3, Karnatheon gets a hand with a lot of counter spells, I guess. Not the best mana to cast them with, and a Stormwing Raven, which is not a card you want to draw. And Herzi has a hand that's really good, again. They have counter spells, they have Bounty, they have Sea Cash with Breach. I guess Sea Cash isn't that good right now because they don't have any extra copies, but I think this is probably a really good hand for Herzi, or at least one that Herzi is definitely willing to keep. Karnatheon also keeps their heavily reactive hand with Stormwing Raven. I guess Karnatheon can first mate away the Stormwing Raven because that card's kind of useless. Yeah. The Karnatheon's probably looking for... Definitely trying to find more lands, at least. Herzi gets Thunderworlds, huh? We call Forgotten Aeons. That would have been really good if Karnatheon had a 3rd land. But Karnatheon needs to fetch blue-black here to Prying Inquiry, and I think that's probably what they want to do. Or they can just hold up Negate, yeah. Probably better to hold up Negate or Forbidden Treasure. If Herzi tries to do anything funny, you either negate it or you Forbidden Treasure it, and you Forbidden Treasure it if it's a win condition, and just don't have to deal with it anymore. I think Herzi's just going to pass, and that kind of wastes Karnatheon's mana. So maybe going for turn 2 Prying Inquiry would have been better. And yeah, Karnatheon's not drawing their 3rd land, which is really unfortunate. You can just pass holding up another counter spell, I guess. But Herzi can just afford to wait too, because they have Thunderworlds. They can just build up the Thunderworlds while they wait. Oh no, Herzi's going to lead off on Sea Cash. And is Karnatheon going to Forbidden Treasure it? No. I think Karnatheon needs to fetch blue-black here, or else they're going to mana screw themselves. Yeah. So, negate or Forbidden Treasure. Forbidden Treasure. Yep. And that strips Herzi's card advantage spell out of their entire deck. Unfortunately, probably not that impactful right now because Herzi didn't really have any extra Sea Caches lying around right now. And Bounty of the Gardens or Breach Lilies are way more threatening. Karnatheon is tapped out though. And Spirit Scripts. So I guess that's probably going to be Diffuse Fuel at this point. Herzi just plays a land and passes. Karnatheon really needs to draw their 3rd land here. They don't, so they have to pass yet again, holding up Negate. Alternatively, Karnatheon can Prying Inquiry right now and force Herzi to diffuse something, or lose them the very cards. So that probably is what Karnatheon kind of wants to do, because Herzi doesn't really have anything that good right now, and like if Karnatheon just waits and holds up counter spells, then Herzi's just going to keep getting further ahead because Karnatheon's down on lands. Nope, Karnatheon's just going to hold up Negate. Herzi Spirit Scripts. I don't think Karnatheon is gonna counter that, which is actually really bad because now Karnatheon wastes mana yet again. So yeah, Karnatheon probably should have Pride Inquiry there, because at least doing that allows them to spend their mana. Holding up Negate for the whole game and never casting it is not a winning strategy here. Herzi draws yet another land. So now they have Diffuse plus Bounty up, or they can do Bounty plus Breach, both of which they can wait until Karnatheon's end of turn to do. I think they just play a land and pass. That's why I mentioned that Karnatheon should have tapped out Prime Inquiry, because Herzi's just never going to give Karnatheon a chance to ever usefully counter something without tapping out. Well, there's Mirror Gate, so at least Karnatheon has their third land. Unfortunately, it's a tap land. Unfortunately, they can try to mana screw Herzi by naming Nebula. So Karnatheon names Nebula, which is also pretty good because turns out Herzi had an extra Nebula in hand. And that would force Nebula to come to play tapped. Karnatheon gets once again to decide between the Gate or Prime Inquiry. Now Herzi gets the end of turn Bounty plus Breach, and I guess Karnatheon probably negates one of them. Yeah, they're gonna negate the Bounty. It seems like Herzi's going to defuse the negate. It's a pretty even exchange. And by naming Nebula with Mirror Gate, Herzi doesn't have the right mana to cast Thunder Rolls next turn. Never mind, they tapped the exact mana that they needed to cast Thunder Rolls. Although they don't have the right colors to augment it just yet, so it did slow down Herzi by a turn. Herzi's probably going to end up turn Breach on Bounty, but at least Karnatheon has Thought Blossom up now. They draw King Dancer, which is not a land, so not what they need. And they don't have the right mana to play Mupuno either. They can recall Forgotten Aeons, but tapping out here would be a death sentence, because now they can't Thought Blossom Breach on the Bounty. As much as I tried Karnatheon for not playing Prime Inquiry earlier, I feel like Karnatheon should probably Prime Inquiry now, if at least with outside knowledge of players' hands. Because Prime Inquiry on the Breach Lilies would... Well, is there... Right, if Karnatheon goes Prime Inquiry, Herzi just breaches the Bounty and then makes a 5/5, and now Karnatheon's staring down lethal next turn and takes the Thunder Rolls, I guess, which probably doesn't get there. I think Prime Inquiry right now probably does give Karnatheon the best chance of winning, though. No, they're just going to pass, which I guess that works. Now if Herzi tries to breach the Bounty, they're going to Thought Blossom, but no, Herzi just passes and draws a Diffuse, which is really good here because that can counter the Thought Blossom. And Herzi is just making Karnatheon waste their mana by not doing anything because they're already ahead on board. And yeah, Karnatheon, I think the reason Karnatheon, well, the main reason Karnatheon lost this game was because he got land screwed, but the other reason was that they just didn't do anything because they kept holding up their counter spells and never casting Prime Inquiry, so they just wasted a bunch of mana. Karnatheon still doesn't draw a forced land, and they can't really afford to keep passing. They're finally going to tap out for something. Or no, they won't. They're just going to pass yet again, and I mean, now they even have to discard the hand size, and they discard Mufuno that they can't cast. I mean, Herzi can just swing again and then pass a turn, and that wastes Karnatheon's mana yet again. Well, are they going to do anything? They're going to tap out main phase for Breach Lilies. If they just done that, oh, they're trying to Thunder Rolls now, and they want to do it before Karnatheon draws the card for a turn. Which, in that case, shouldn't have done it at the beginning of Karnatheon's upkeep, and Karnatheon is going to Thought Blossom, I guess. Well, they should wait for Breach to resolve first and get Unceasing onto the stack, and then I guess they can King Dancer. Yeah, they're gonna let Breach resolve first. Unceasing Flames gets cast, and now Karnatheon gets to Thought Blossom Unceasing Flames. I feel like Karnatheon should have King Dancered the Forbidden Treasure instead, because it gets a blocker to play for the Bounty token. And it also gets, well, it didn't matter anyways because Herzi managed to augment the Thunder Rolls. So yeah, game 3, also a really unfortunate loss from Karnatheon due to mana screw. Although Karnatheon probably could have improved their chances by not holding up counter spells as often and trying to actually tap out for Prime Inquiry instead of just wasting mana by doing nothing.